Okay, we're not gonna have beer for this video. We're gonna have some brandy. It's Parmesan, cheap stuff. Cheers. Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so we're gonna do another trade review. This time it's going to be Batman Volume 1, Court of Owls. This was the first Batman comic from the New 52. Basically, in a nutshell, the New 52 is when DC Comics basically revamped and restarted their whole superhero comics line. And like I said, this was the first story arc from Batman. So the first chapter here is Batman #1. So basically, what the premise is Batman finds out about this particularly brutal murder, and all the evidence seems to be pointing to this secret society, this organization called the Court of Owls. And the Court of Owls is basically this urban legend that exists in Gotham City about this secret society is kind of running things behind the scenes. Like I said, it's kind of an urgent legend. At first, Batman doesn't really believe in it, but of course, we find out there is an actual court of owls. They've got, an assassin that kind of works for them, that runs afoul of Batman. Uh, and there's this whole thing where, of course, Batman has to, deal with them, has to deal with the assassin. He also finds out that the Court of Owls may or may not have something to do with his family's history, and his great grandfather in particular. And also, there's this whole thing where there's this politician, this guy who's running for mayor, trying to get Bruce Wayne's vote. So that's basically the setup in a nutshell. For the most part, I enjoyed it. It's written by Scott Snyder, and I think around this time he had gotten some critical attention for his indie comic, American Vampire. I haven't read that. That's one of those comics I'm like, I'll have to get to that. I've heard good things about it, so eventually I will read it. But yeah, the writing here is mostly pretty solid, pretty tight. I like the things he does where he kind of reintroduces the reader to Batman and how he operates, Bruce Wayne, what his role is in the city. There's this whole idea of the city itself being kind of an extra character in the story as well, which is, always been part of the modern Batman mythos, if you will. And I think he does some solid writing. I like the characterizations of Batman. There's his supporting cast, Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Bullocks, who are also cops. There's some interesting things with him and Dick Grayson, his former Robin, who is now Nightwing. We also get quick glimpses of Damian Wayne, who's his actual son, and Tim Drake, who is another kid that Bruce Wayne had adopted a little bit right before Damian, I guess. Wait, did he actually adopt him? I can't remember. I can't remember what the standing is with the continuity and what is and isn't canon. But he Tim Drake, of course, was Robin at one point, and la di da. So yeah, but again, a really solid writing, good characterization. I like the plotting. It's not super dense, but a lot of things go on. Um, a lot of interesting twists and turns. There's an interesting thing, like I said, with the whole history of the city, history of the Wayne family, and again, Bruce Wayne being this playboy millionaire philanthropist piss piss. I've had some brandy. Anyway, and what he tries to do for the city, in a legit way, of course, versus what he tries to do as a street vigilante. And I think like I said, I think for the most part is really solid, really well written, really tight, action packed. You see Batman doing kind of detective work, and which of course is important to the character. So yeah, I thought it was really solid as far as the writing aspect. But what really helps sells the comic for me is Greg Capullo's art. His penciling and inker is Jonathan Rapino. I can't say his name. Um, but you got some really, really nice stuff going on here. It's exaggerated in a good way, but that's some decent draftsmanship here. But yeah, you've got this kind of semi. I don't want to say. Well, I guess you could say semi cartoony style. It's exaggerated comic book art, but it's dark. It's mysterious in places. It's creepy, and it's that sort of thing you can't get in super realistic art. But I think Greg is able to pull it off. There's an interesting scene where Batman gets captured without giving too much away. Gets captured by the bad guys. I don't know if you can make this sort of stuff out. And to emphasize, well, I don't want to show you that, but to emphasize his sort of helplessness and being disoriented, Greg really does some interesting things with the page layouts where you actually have to kind of turn the page around to get what's going on. And it's just one of those crazy things that you can only do in a print comic. Again, not to give too much of it away. But at one point, you have to turn the comic. I guess I'll show you this one. You end up having to turn the comic sideways and by the time you're done, you turn it another time and then you turn it yet again. So it kind of made me think of, well, it made me think of two things. It kind of made me think of like those old Jim Steranko, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. comics from the 60s. And then it made me think, of course, of stuff like John Byrne did an issue of Fantastic Four that you had to redid the layouts, this way. You had to read the comic book like this. I think there was an issue of Cerberus like that. And I want to say there was a big thing in the 90s where that was kind of the trend to do, instead of just doing one splash page, you would do a splash that was a double splash that you would have to turn this way. That was a big thing that was happening back in the 90s or whatever. But yeah, just awesome. Well, I don't want to give too much away, but just awesome, really solid, professional comic book art from Greg Capullo. This might be fun. Uh, Here's some of the variant covers. Even Van Scriver and Jim Lee. Really good Jim Lee stuff there. I've said it before, Jim Lee is not the guy you want to do your slice of life comic or your satire comic or anything like that. I don't even think he's really great at horror stuff, but if you want to have superheroes just standing there looking majestic, Jim Lee is the guy to call. Uh, Ivan Reyes, I guess that's how you say his name. Really good. He's like Jim Lee with a better sense of storytelling. Is this Mike Cho? Yeah, Mike Cho. And who else is left? Gary Frank and Dustin Onion. I can't say his name. No, and Chris Burnham. So these are these. And there's Dustin. And the rest of this is, you get a couple pages where they show you the actual script. And then they show you how Greg started, sketching in the breakdowns for it. So I always think stuff like that is interesting as well. So you get a couple pages of that. I don't know if it's going to show up very well here. But okay, that's basically it. Like I said, a really good reintroduction to Batman, his mythos, his characterization, some of his supporting cast, as well as getting this whole sense of what Batman is and what he means to the city, and other secrets and things that about the city that maybe Batman doesn't know about. And like I said, you've got some really great art here. So okay, I guess that's it. I got to thank you very much for watching. You guys have a good day.